collusion was that done by Democrats who were unable to win an election despite the spending of far more money. That's his take on the first year. What's yours?
Yeah, I mean, look, what we know for certain as a result of this investigation is that the Russians did meddle in the election. 13 Russians have been indicted by the special counsel. At least 6 others have been indicted in the last year in connection with this investigation. So this notion that sort of nothing has happened, and here we are a year later, and we're still waiting. A lot has happened in the first year. The questions still remain as to what's next, meaning will they be able to indict, will they indict any senior members of the Trump campaign in connection with that? We don't know the answer to that. But the notion that up to this point it's been a witch hunt or a hoax just makes no sense.
One thing we also know, Professor Dershowitz, is that other special counsel investigations, and you've criticized this, have gone on for far longer than a year.
Well, I think it was a mistake to appoint a special counsel. They should have appointed a nonpartisan, independent commission like 9/11 to find out how this election went wrong. And it went wrong in so many different ways. This is one of the worst elections in modern history, with Russian attempts to influence, other attempts by Gulf countries to influence the existence of FBI agents who were trying desperately to turn the election away from Trump. We should have had a massive investigation, and then we should change the laws to make it clear what you can do and what you can't do. I don't think this investigation has gotten us what we need to know. Knowledge and information about how to prevent this in the future.
Ballinger says in passing that, oh, and, you know, we've got evidence that the FBI agents were trying to turn this against Trump. We don't have any evidence that FBI agents were trying to turn the election.
How about Strzok's tweets when he said, we need a guarantee, we need an insurance policy, we have to investigate that.
Hold on, those were not tweets, those were private texts.
Oh, what's the difference? We got them.
There's a massive difference.
They show a state of mind, and now we
read all of his texts. If you read all of his texts, actually the total context is not saying, oh my goodness, Donald Trump is the problem. Also, he talked about Hillary Clinton and problems with Hillary Clinton, et cetera. The bottom line is to sort of throw that in there with all the rest of what the special counsel has found. To me, it just minimizes what we've really found with regard to Russian meddling.
And I think it should minimize it, because what we found is not particularly significant.
You don't think it's significant? The Russian meddling is not significant?
No, I think it's very significant. The meddling, I don't think the criminal charges are very significant, because we, to this day, don't even know what the law still is. You know, the Supreme Court has said that foreign governments can intrude themselves into elections if they have an interest in the outcome of the election. What they can't do is contribute money. The law is very unclear. Now we have information of an FBI informant in the campaign. That's worth an investigation.
Again, FBI informant in the campaign.
That's right.
Again, no evidence an FBI informant was in the campaign. None. Here's the evidence we have. The evidence we have is that an FBI informant spoke to members of the Trump campaign. That's not in the campaign.
It's good enough to get an investigation going. This was Dan, let me ask you a question. Was this a good election? Is this something we should be proud of? Or is this an election that warrants an investigation, a nonpartisan investigation on both sides, to make sure that in the future, A, we know what the rules are, B, we know how to stop countries from improperly intruding on elections. That's what we need to know. We need to look forward. We need to stop this in the future and stop making up crimes and expanding the criminal law to fit people that we've targeted. That's dangerous to democracy.
Alan's been very consistent on this issue about the law over the years, and I respect that. But the notion that the special counsel can't view this objectively, that Robert Mueller is somehow, Robert Mueller is so compromised? Which way?
I'm not
a long-time
suggesting...
Republican, so why can't Robert Mueller be the one to assess whether there are any crimes?
First of all, this long-term Republican, Comey was a long-term Republican. They're all long-term Republicans who hated Trump. So that doesn't help at all.
You know that Mueller hated Trump?
You won't have any doubt about that at the end of this thing.
You mean because maybe he'll find evidence?
No, but maybe he and Comey are so close, their history is so close together, that when you read Comey's book and you see what he has said, you really wonder about the objectivity of the investigation. Look, if there was evidence of crime, the U.S. attorneys can investigate it, as the Southern District is doing. The Main justice can investigate it. There's one person that should be recused in this case, and that's Rod Rosenstein, because he's a witness. He's the main witness. There was never a need for a special counsel. Special counsel have targets. They're looking to try to find crimes against people. That doesn't serve the interests of America. America's interest is served by finding out the truth, the facts, changing the law, and making sure it never happens again.
It sounds like you're in league with President Trump on impeaching the credibility at this point of the special. But in the meantime, the investigation is continuing. And one of the things we learned this weekend is that New York Times report on the cover of the New York Times this morning that now Robert Mueller is investigating this meeting that Donald Trump Jr. and other aides had with emissaries of Gulf nations, wealthy Arab Gulf nations, offering help to win the election. The president's tweeted on that this morning as well. He says things are getting really ridiculous. Failing crooked New York Times has done a long and boring story indicating the world's most expensive witch hunt has found nothing on Russia and me, so now they're looking at the rest of the world. Now, this story, Dan, is a bit complicated. I'll grant that. But what it does say is that Donald Jr. had a meeting with an emissary of the UAE and Saudi Arabia who was offering some help, perhaps working with an Israeli firm on social media.
I read the article twice, and then again, and still am not certain after reading it 3 times whether there is any potential criminal activity.
Isn't that a problem? Isn't that a problem that we don't even know what the law is today as to whether this is legal or illegal?
It's actually not that we don't know what the law is. It's that we don't know what the facts are.
No, it's that we don't know what the law is.
All right, well,
Here,
as far as I know, I'll tell you the basic.
Finish and then go.
Yeah, the basic law, as I understand it, is that a foreign national can't provide anything of value which has been interpreted to mean typically substantial assistance in connection with an election.
Okay,
period.
So let's take the following scenario. You have countries in the world who hate the Democrats because of the fact that they made a deal with the Iranians that they think endangers their security. Yeah. Therefore, they want to see a Republican elected. Is that a crime? You don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that because the Supreme Court and the legislatures haven't given us.
Wait, I do know the answer to that. If they gave money, that would be a crime.
That would be one thing.
If they gave any campaign assistance that has a value, that would be a crime.
No, that's not true. The United States Supreme Court has had case after case where you can give things of value if they are protected by the First Amendment, if they are informational, if they are a concert, for example. Cases all over the place, and they go both ways. The law is not clear.
Alan, the law in every area has gray areas, right? That's why cases make it to the Supreme Court, because appellate courts end up interpreting things in different ways. And then it makes its way up to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court has to resolve exactly what it means to suggest, oh, this area of the law is so much more vague. It's not.
No, it is. Let me tell you, we don't know what. First of all, you talk about the Israeli person. We've had foreign people involved in American elections from the very beginning of time. That's perfectly legal to have a foreign person involved as long as they don't make substantial campaign contributions. There's a volunteer exception. There's another exception that says that if you're doing it for your own purpose.
You're intentionally making this more complicated than it needs to be.
Boy, it's complicated enough.
It is, but you know what? They're going to figure out whether they're under current law, the same way they do in every other area of the law, was a law violated. It's just not that hard, and to sort of throw your arms up and say, oh, we can't interpret this area of the law.
You and I can't agree that something is a crime.
You're a law professor. Law professors point to specific, difficult questions. That's what you have done for a living.
Never be the basis
in every area of law.
Never see the basis for criminal prosecution unless you know with absolute clarity where the line is, and you make the Hamlet decision.